Hey guys, it's Nikki on the go. So I am here in downtown Arlington with Dr. Jason Shelton. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right today, Nikki. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here.
Pleasure to have you here. Now, you and I met several years back during COVID.
Yep.
You were chair of the Unity Council, newly
Yes.
formed Unity Council.
Yes, that was a great time, an important time in our city and in our nation, and all 30 of us stepped up to the plate to answer the call for leadership in the city, and it was an honor to work on that committee with you, for real.
Well, I want to thank you for your leadership and thank you for your service to this community. It's been amazing working with you over the years here.
And I appreciate that, and hopefully there's more down the pipeline, and I see the great thing you're doing too. We all following in each other's footsteps, so keep that work going for real.
Appreciate you. Tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got started and all that good stuff.
Oh man, Nikki, it goes back a few years ago. You know, I'm a professor at UT Arlington. I've been here at UTA for 17 years. It's been a long time. And when I became director of African American Studies, it's such a forward public community position. I wouldn't just stay on campus and be in my office and just even working with students. I get out and about. And being out and about, you meet members in the community. And I remember meeting Barbara Odom Wesley. And she invited me to come to a few events, and the next thing I know is I invited her to come to a few events, and then the next thing I know, summer 2020 happens, and George Floyd, and I get a phone call from her, and she says, "Hey Jason, we'd like you to serve on this committee called the Unity Council." And I said, "It'd be an honor." And then the next thing she said was, "We want you to chair it." And I said, "Good Lord, really?" and the next thing, that was it. So I've been around since then, and that's of course how we met. But in my day life, of course, I'm a professor. I write books. I teach. I always tell people I do the fun stuff: race, religion, and politics. And I do it in a way where I'm able to engage these hot button political issues from a perspective that I don't judge people. I need to learn. I like to learn to see how things change over time, why people believe what they believe. And again, like I say, I don't judge. I just have a good time. I'm a nerd. I love reading and writing and learning about people and groups in our society.
I love that. And coincidentally, your love for writing is what brings us here today.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So this is my second book. It's called The Contemporary Black Church, The New Dynamics of African American Religion. It came out actually a year ago last week. And it's gotten lots of great attention. Nikki, I've been in the New York Times a couple of times. I've been in the Washington Post. I've been on a bunch of big time websites. A lot of it goes back to the big changes that are happening, particularly among us as African Americans. As you know, there's a story in the United States about religion overall. And religion is such an important thing because it is about, the good Lord and the afterlife, but it is also about community in this life. And religion is a tool for bringing people together. Well, what happens as religion changes? What happens to that sense of community? What happens to political changes in our society? All of that are things that I deal with in my book. And on the eve of the presidential election, I got a ton of phone calls for reasons related to who's voting for who and who's not voting for who. And of course, in the African American community, and you know this, Nikki, the black vote doesn't look the way that it looked 30, 40 years ago. It's more complicated. As we've made more progress in America, a lot of us look at the Democratic Party and we see a different party than we thought, or we have different reasons for voting Republican. And I tell all of that in my book. But I also connected to just how religion is changing in Black America and that sense of community.
Love it. Now, on your book, I have to ask this: is there an Arlington connection to your book?
Oh, that's a great question, Nikki. So the answer to your question is yes. So as the nerdy professor, what I always love to do, Nikki, and you know this from Unity Council, looking at data. What does the actual data say? We all have opinions, but I've always wanted to know. I was the kid in the barbershop as a little boy. I grew up in Los Angeles. I remember sitting in the barbershop and all the brothers had opinions. They could solve every problem on the planet. But I'm sitting there listening like, I don't think his opinion makes any sense, but if I spoke up, I get in a lot of trouble, right?
Right.
So as the years went by and I get to college and I start learning about data and statistics and analyses, I come across, there's a great data file called the General Social Survey, it's the GSS. It's been around since the early 1970s. And the GSS is like my best friend. because I hang out and it's got all these great questions about life in the United States, things about religion, things about politics, things about community, things about. And I sit around and analyze this stuff. With this book, what I'm looking at is 50 years of data among us as African Americans. But data can only take you but so far, Nikki. You might also remember with the Unity Council, we did interviews and we did focus groups. So numbers might be one thing, but why people feel the way that they feel is something completely different. You got to talk to them for that. So I did interviews here in Arlington, and I talked to people that you know actually, but I can't tell you who they are because I did this anonymously for them to sit down and tell me their real feelings about things. I gave them anonymity and confidentiality. Their stories are in my book, and there are some great stories. Actually, this is my second book, and in my first book, I had a number of interviews in Arlington as well.
Nice.
So I try to represent my local community. I also went home to Ohio and did interviews. I did interviews in Los Angeles where I grew up as a kid. I try to tell a national story about African American life, but I also want to anchor it in my local community. The other thing I do want to tell you, Nikki, is that really Arlington helped to inspire me writing this book. My wife and I, we got married in Ohio. That's where we're both from, even though I was a kid in California. And when we came to Texas, we both said we were going to find an AME church. AME stands for African Methodist Episcopal. It's sort of like the United Methodist Church, but it's sort of the black version of that. And we got here to Arlington in 2008. Our first child was born in 2008, and we didn't find a church right away because, good Lord, we're newly minted parents, right? Yeah. But by the time we got ready to find a church, we couldn't find an AME church. Now, they are here in Arlington, okay? And they're here in DFW. But we would walk into those churches and we'd see, forgive me, but they'd be old churches. Where are the young families? Where are the young kids? Where's that music that my kids are gonna love and wanna come back to? We couldn't find it. So Arlington helped me realize there's a story to be told here. And what I realized is that for the denomination that I grew up in, the AME church, the story was probably not gonna be a good one about decline. But so I do tell that. It was anchored here in Arlington and inspired that. But then you go on and I look at the numbers and I do the interviews and I tell this rich story. It's not just about the AME church. It's about Black America overall. And there are places where there's tremendous gain and progress. And there are other places where there's tremendous decline in terms of religion. So I do all of that in the book and have a really great time telling that story.
I love that. What inspires you? I know you say you love to write, but is there anything else that inspires you to write, to serve, just to be out in the community?
Man, Nikki, that's another great question. You've probably heard me say this before. I don't mind telling the world that I'm a nerdy professor, right? I love reading, I love writing, but I also grew up serving. And my mom is the person who really taught me to understand to serve and do sacrifice. So, quick story. When I was a kid in California, my parents had a pretty good life. We lived in the hood. If you watch a movie like Boys in the Hood from back in the day, that was my neighborhood. That's literally where I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. And a lot of the little homeboys on the block didn't have a lot. They came from homes with a lot of challenges in them. Well, my mom and dad were there, they were college degree, they had good jobs, they were young and on the way up. So on a Friday night, my mother, the little homeboys in the hood would be at our house, and my mother would order pizza. And I have a little brother. She would not order one pizza for the four of us, our family. She ordered 2 or 3 pizzas. Nice. Because she knew those little dudes on the block probably weren't gonna go home with food that night. So she would order more and she'd give them Christmas gifts. And I'm looking at, she'd be out shopping for Christmas and I'd be like, Mom, why are you buying that? And she's like, I'm giving this for some of the little kids on the block. And I'm like, that could go to me and her, you know what I'm saying? But then I realized as time went by, she's teaching us for whom much is given, much is required.
Exactly.
And that's what we learned. So my mom taught me all of that through her service in the community, her service in the church. And those were just things that live on in me. So yeah, you can read, I can write. I love to do this research on politics and religion and race and community. But what does it mean beyond the book? What does it mean to enhance our city, to enhance my local community, to make an impact? Most people aren't going to read that book, good Lord, but what can I do to take the principles there and apply them? That's really what I think is the most important thing that I try to do.
I love that. And Dr. Shelton, for your book, tell us where we can, anyone that's watching this that wants to get a book, where can they go to get a copy of your book?
Oh, great, Nikki. There are a number of places that you can get it. I would say most importantly, you can get it over Amazon.com. It is definitely available on Amazon. You can also buy it from the book publisher, New York University Press, nyupress.org. And when we post this, post that 30% discount. When we buy it on NYU, there's a code there that I will give you. So if you go to nyupress.org and use that 30% discount, that's really a place where you can get it. You can also get it locally. There's an African American bookstore in Fort Worth called the Doc Bookshop where you can walk in and get it. I did a book signing there last weekend. So I want to support these local communities and local businesses, all of that good stuff. Amazon, NYU, and the Doc Bookshop.
Guys, he said 30% off.
30% off, yes ma'am. Yes,
I love that. Well guys, we will post all of this at the bottom of the screen, so make sure to get that information down below. Dr. Shelton, as we close out, is there anything else you'd like the audience to know about your exciting book that you have? Both of your books, really?
Yes, this first book, or this new book, looks at African American life and some of the religious and political and cultural changes. My first book is much broader. It's called Blacks and Whites in Christian America. And it looks at essentially race relations among Christians. And it talks about how far we've come, but as our grandmothers would say, how far we have yet to go.
Right.
Yes, we've made a long way. We've come a long way in the course of our lives. But what role does religion play in helping things improve? It's played a significant role in terms of improving race relations among blacks and whites. But of course, we still got some gaps to go. And those are some of the things that I deal with in that first book. You can also get that from NYU Press. You can also get that from Amazon as well. And so those are some of the things that I appreciate that question. I also want to say I want to stay active in our community. I'm not chairing the Unity Council anymore, but it's important to me to stay active. You can't just, I tell my students this at the university all the time, I can't just sit in my office and teach. You got to get out in the community. You got to be a part to really make an impact on people's lives and in the local community. So I want the young people at the university to realize you can't just sit in the dorm. You can't just read a book. You got to go look someone in the eye, shake their hand, give them a hug, and help us all move forward.
I love that. Thank you so much, Dr. Shelton, for being on the show. Guys, go out and get this book. Definitely a great book. Dr. Shelton, thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you for the invitation, Nikki.
Guys, this has been Nikki on the Go. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next episode. Take care. Bye.